Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. Welcome to the show. For you that are watching now, welcome. And for you that are going to watch later, I hope you enjoyed the conversation. It's going to be a great one. We're going to talk about video games, classic ones. And I have my good friend and everyone's favorite Star Wars narrator here with us, Marcel. How
Hey,
you doing,
everybody.
my friend?
I'm good. Thanks for having me this morning.
Yeah. Thanks for when I did the channel update, you reached out right away and you were like, man, I heard you want to talk about Final Fantasy, you like that, you like Big Trouble in Little China, let's talk about that. And we just started rolling with this conversation, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I want to get you on. We need to talk about these games because it'll just be fun. And obviously Star Wars is a big part of both of our lives, but I'm sure as us and everyone else in the fandom, they love multiple types of things, right?
Yeah. I think also the other interesting thing is that you and I are pretty almost like the same age. We're a few years apart, but we
Yeah.
would have like sort of hit the same video game milestones. We would have grown up through the same era. So we probably have a lot of the same memories or, like the exposure to the same types of games
Oh
throughout
yeah.
throughout time. Yeah.
And it's crazy to see how games have come now to what like we had.
Yeah.
I show my kids my games I used to play, and they look at me and they're like, Dad, I'm not playing that. Like, how'd you even play that? Look at their square,
Right.
and it's compared to the 3D and all the animation they have nowadays. But
Right.
they're classics, and that's what I always go back to when I start to game. See, we got some folks that popped in here in the chat. Sam, how you doing, Sam? Morning.
Hey, man.
Gray Home, how you doing, sir?
Good to
Thanks
see
for
you.
tuning in. So glad you're here, my friend. Welcome.
See you, Pico.
Yep. So yeah, we were I wanted to just kind of, when we brought this up and doing this conversation, it brought me right back to some special memories and moments throughout my life where it's like, man, let's talk about them. Like I remember getting my first Sega Genesis system. I got it
Yeah.
for Christmas one year from Santa, and I tried to find the picture before this started because my parents, we didn't have phones and digital cameras back then, so it was all the developed cameras, the snap cameras, and they caught me opening it up, in my face. I still remember it to this moment. My face was just huge. My expression, I was super excited. I mean, it's Sonic the Hedgehog,
Yeah.
right? So that was one moment for me that kind of stood out that I just want to mention. Did you have a moment like that, growing up?
Yeah, I mean, well, growing up, I wasn't from a very affluent family. Like we were, like my parents were like paycheck to paycheck kind of people, and so
Yeah.
whenever same thing. Like I think, and exact same console too. I remember the Sega Genesis and the Game Boy really stick out in my head as like two that I got for Christmas, and just like because that's when we used to get those types of things, right? The consoles would come at Christmas time because it's not like I had disposable income. I could just walk to the store and buy it at any time. So we'd have to wait up till Christmas. And then I remember opening it up and just freaking out and spending all of Christmas Day and, the next like 3 or 4 days until school started again, just trying it out.
Yeah. My parents were the same way. They did their best. And I think, from a marketing perspective, it was kind of like the best time for them to release systems, like you mentioned, around Christmas time and holidays, because that's, the biggest shopping time of the year all over the country, right?
Yeah.
And outside the States and such. So, I mean, that moment really stuck out. I was a big, Mortal Kombat Street Fighter fan,
Right.
and I remember my dad even playing Mortal Kombat with some of his buddies and sit next to him watching them, and it was just cool. And yeah, we grew up from the same time era. We're a couple of years in difference, but Atari was already out when I was a kid. So I mean, I have vague memories of playing like Pac-Man, the common thing, Donkey Kong, Pong. We jumped ahead a little bit to the Sega era, but Nintendo as well.
Yeah.
Mario 3, I just remember that. And my aunt, she would play with me all the time growing up. And she had got the strategy guide. She was like subscribed to the Nintendo Gamer magazine. I don't know
Yeah.
if you remember that, or anyone in the chat remembers that. Yeah. So like Nintendo had so many great games too.
Oh yeah. Well, so what was your first memory of video games then? Like the first memory that you can remember?
Overall,
Yeah.
I would have to say it was probably Mario.
Yeah, me too.
And then I kind of went backwards into the Atari. Like the Atari was packed away when Nintendo came out. Like people packed that away, and it was all Nintendo, right?
Yeah.
So Mario is my first, I think, initial in the duck hunt game with the gun. I thought that was so cool.
Yeah, those two games I think were my very first memories because I think my dad had purchased an Nintendo Entertainment System, and I remember like just sitting on the couch with my dad and my uncle, his brother, playing Super Mario Brothers, and just getting used to the game and how hard it was, and my very first platformer ever as well. Uh, and then from there, like I don't really have many memories until I think I played Zelda as well early on
Yeah.
in Duck Hunt for sure because it came with the gun. But I don't really have many memories until like the Super NES, Sega Genesis era.
Yeah, that's kind of where mine. I mean, I remember playing Double Dragon. I was always a fan of like the co-op games when
Yeah,
because then you play with, your older sibling if you had one. I played with my aunt a lot. And my dad actually, he, so I've been involved in racing my whole life. My dad's always been a huge NASCAR fan. We worked for a race company. So I remember him playing Bill Elliott's NASCAR Challenge. It was like the racing game back then, and then Need for Speed.
which system was this?
Nintendo, still a
Nintendo.
Nintendo.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So I remember watching him play that. I was terrible at it. And the Days
Yeah.
of Thunder video game that they made after the movie, if people are familiar with that racing game with Tom Cruise. So I remember watching him play, but I was terrible at it. But I was the Mario Double Dragon, and then when they came out with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game, like the arcade, hooked all the time. I never beat the game as a kid, though. I'll say that.
So that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game, recently I beat it for the first time because maybe months ago, we're talking this past year because they came out with this thing for PlayStation called the Cow. I think it was for a couple systems actually. It was called the Cowabunga Collection.
I have it on the Switch.
Yeah, and so they basically just collect a whole bunch of different vintage Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles games. And actually, now that you mention, I do remember playing it as a young kid, but it was way too hard. I remember that one level. It was like you're underwater and you couldn't get the electrified by the seaweed,
Yeah.
and you had to disarm the bombs, and I just could not do that as a kid. I just could not do that, and so I just recently beat it for the first time now, and yeah, it's nice to kindly find close that book in my life.
Yeah, that's honestly what's up, architects? How you doing? Welcome.
Good to see you.
Everyone else that's tuning in, welcome. Just having some fun talking about some classic video games and our stories. So I appreciate y'all tuning in. Yeah, this is when I recently beat it as well because I bought it for the Switch, and then I got my son to play it with me, and then he kind of enjoyed it because playing it. I still have it on the Nintendo, like I still have the Nintendo with that game, but I never beat it back then. It was hard, man. It was really hard.
Yeah.
And going to the arcade and playing it as you got older, they made some money off them arcade machines for sure, having to dump quarters into that baby.
Well, you think about it, like games like that and Mega Man, for instance, these aren't long games. These are games that you could probably beat if you're good at them in 4 to 5 hours. But in order for people to get their money's worth, they had to make them super hard so that you had to just keep trying and trying and trying until you mastered it.
Oh, yeah. And, if you had because they had it set up for the 4 players, which I think you can actually, like the one-up arcade systems, I think recently came out with, you can buy the old arcades, which is cool. But if they didn't have the money, you were kind of SOL in a sense, because that game was made to be played multiplayer.
Yeah.
It had to be.
Yeah, of course.
Let's see some more comments here. I used to have a Genesis, but it went missing somewhere in my house 10 years ago.
That happened. Something similar happened to me. Our Nintendo 64, when we moved, my parents ended up splitting up, I think, in the early 2000s, and my mom's sister and I moved away, and in that move, we just lost the N64. Everything else made it, like the PlayStations, the Game Boys, the DS, but the N64 was just gone.
Oh man,
yeah,
that's always a bummer. You know, and now they're coming out with all those retro systems too, where like you buy the one system, and if you still have the cartridges, they all work on the.
That's right. Yeah,
which is pretty cool, but it's always good to have the original.
Of course.
They made things.
Works.
Yeah, I was gonna say they made things a little stronger back then. Architects, the Ninja Turtle game on Super Nintendo was one of my earliest memories. Yeah, that's cool, man. Shortly, It's a great game. We'll get to the Super for sure. There were some good games for that as well. But yeah, I mean, even the Final Fantasy series. Okay, I'm big into like the RPG thing in the fantasy, but that didn't come until later on in my
Right.
life when I discovered all that kind of stuff. Which we'll delve into that. So I didn't play much of Final Fantasy on the regular Nintendo.
Yeah. I think I dipped my toes into it. I think one of the earliest games that we had was Dragon Warrior, which is now like the Dragon Quest series, and it's super popular in Japan. Even in the US, it's pretty popular too, but it's pretty popular in Japan. It's like people like take the day off when a new game comes out in that series. But Dragon Warrior was just way too hard, and so was Final Fantasy for a kid, like for a 4 or 5 year old. It was just because you had to like battle monsters, and if you kind of went outside of the area that you were supposed to be in, then the monsters were way higher level, and you just can't really like understand what's going on as a kid. You have to equip weapons and armor, so it was just too tough for me. So like you, I had to come back to it much later on in life.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't really enjoy it until later on. I've played it, like you said, as a kid, but you die a lot. You don't know the concept and all the mechanics behind what you need to do. But Nintendo's got a lot of great games. Just classics. Obviously, Mario is a huge franchise, and
Yeah.
Double Dragon. That later on in Super Nintendo, you had Battletoads and Double Dragon, which was just fantastic.
Yeah, I sent you that link the other day. The first level, that music just slaps. It's so good.
It is. When you played that, I remembered it immediately as soon as it started. But the soundtracks and the game techno beats that they used to use back then were just so cool.
Yeah.
And very creative.
Yeah, and I know we talk because we talk about Star Wars a lot too, but we talk about like nostalgia and childhood memories and stuff like that. I would say my most vivid childhood memories are not only tied up in like, Star Wars or Indiana Jones or stuff like that, but video games. So like when I see like the iconic black mage or white mage from Final Fantasy, or I hear that theme, or I hear the Zelda theme, and it's like 8-bit, like a MIDI, or like, it's just like a really, really kind of like an early version of the song. I'm immediately transported back to a time and place when I was a kid and could play these games for hours on it without having to worry about anything else.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. And it's so cool that now they're remastering a lot of these games. They're coming out with the bundle package, like you mentioned, the Cowabunga collection. It's just great. Even a Crash Bandicoot, that was another iconic thing for PlayStation when that kicked off. We're kind of jumping around here, but the nostalgia thing. And I know as we're both parents, we both have jobs and such and other things that we're dedicated to. But like when I want to play a video game, it's hard for me to play newer games. I always revert back to the classics that I grew up with because I'm familiar with them and they feel comfortable.
Yeah. Well, I think I was telling you like Diablo 2 Remastered came out last year. And I had all these other games that I was like, oh, I should play these games first. But I was like, no, I want to play Diablo 2 Remastered because I remember playing so much Diablo 2 in high school, and I just wanted to go back to that time and relive those memories.
Oh yeah, I played the crap out of D2. I still do. I have I think 86 level barb that I go through the hell difficulty and just try to farm. Every now and then I do that. Every now and then I'll throw on some music. I loved listening to Metallica as a kid. I was a huge Metallica fan, right?
Yeah.
And the music just fit with that type of game style. So I would just put on the little portable Walkman. I had speakers plugged into it, put the CD in there, and I just listened to like Master of Puppets or the Black Album or Injustice for All and just grind through D2. It was just a blast.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We'll check the chat here. We got some folks popping in. I see Alex is here. How you doing, sir? I'm showing my age. I like Final Fantasy 6 and 7. Oh,
maybe the two best. I don't know.
Yeah. Vaughn Everlast. I was always a huge TG16 CD. Owned every game USA released and sold it way before. Oh man.
Yeah, that's really rare these days.
Yeah, absolutely. Two Star Wars nerds. How you doing? N64 was my favorite as a kid. I grew up to love the Dreamcast as an adult.
Yeah.
See, that's one I didn't play much of was the Sega Dreamcast. I never really got involved with that.
So there was I think it was Blockbuster allowed you to, for a time, rent consoles. You could rent the console itself instead of the actual video game for like a week or a weekend or something like that.
Hmm.
And I think that's how I first played the Dreamcast. I rented the Dreamcast because there was no way I was ever going to buy it because it
Yeah.
wasn't one of the main consoles that I was, that people had at the time. And so but I really wanted to try it out because there was this, I think this Sonic game for the Dreamcast that I really wanted to try out. And man, it was just like, that's one system where I have no beat on it. Like I just don't really have many memories of it.
Yeah, neither do I. I know my neighbor, one of my buddies, there was 4 of us that grew up around each other, and we'd always, play. He got one, but we just didn't really play it much. We reverted back to the regular Sega because we were, like I said, we're just accustomed to playing them style games. And then he had Sega CD. I don't know if you recall, that was fun. There was some cool games that were made for that, especially what they did with Streets of Rage for the Sega.
Oh, Streets of Rage, man. It's a classic game.
Oh, I almost bought, I believe for the Switch, they made a Sega like collection game with like a lot of the classics, like Golden Axe is on there, for example, and Streets of Rage. And I almost picked that up, but I believe they made a Streets of Rage 4 now, and it's kind of got like cartoonish animation graphics. It looks pretty good, but like that's another co-op game,
Let me ask you a couple games if you've ever played them. Have you ever played Killer Instinct?
Yes, on the Super. I played on the Super.
Yeah. Have you ever played? This was I think it was a Sega Genesis game, Echo the Dolphin.
No, but I remember the name.
That game was so hard to play as a kid because I had no idea what I was doing. It was like before the era where you could just pop onto a website and like look up, like, how do I get past this part or something like that.
Really?
But Echo the Dolphin, and it was crazy because I think like he fights aliens or something. He's a dolphin that has like powers and he fights aliens, and you're like, this is like such a crazy concept for a game.
Well, let me hit you back with, what about Toe Jam and Earl?
Yeah, Toe Jam and Earl. I don't think I've ever played that, but I know it.
Yeah, it was like they were in space and he had like a squiggly noodle head.
Oh, Earthworm Jim.
Or that was Earthworm Jim. Yeah, Earthworm Jim. Yep.
Yeah.
Another classic.
Game.
Let's see here. Yeah. I see Alex has got some conversation pieces here. Castlevania is probably the most classic game I played, and the OG Mario game on ROM.
Yeah.
Castlevania was good. That was another hard one.
Yeah, the Castlevania games were super hard. I got the collection on PlayStation Network, and I've played through the first 3 or 4, I think, and then I played Symphony of the Night and Rondo of Blood. But Castlevania is one of those series that, by all accounts, like I should get into more.
Yeah,
I love it, but I missed it as a kid because it was way too hard for me.
Symphony of Destruction, that's the one I remember the most. But it was another hard game. I mean, they were hard. But I like the concept. I like the story. I should play it more and get back into it, more as an adult now and try to beat it.
Did you watch the Netflix show?
Yes, I loved it.
Yeah,
I loved it. I think Alex was mentioning that in the chat too. Yeah. They, I wish they were going to come out with more. I'm not sure.
I think so, but I think there's going to be like a massive time jump. Like, I don't even know if it's going to be the same show, but it's going to be the same like showrunners or animation styles, what I heard. But it's like a different series set within the same universe.
Oh, interesting. That'd be cool.
Wow.
This will show my age. I completed at the 19. No way.
Good for you, man.
Congrats. That is awesome.
I would have been 3 at the time.
How'd you do? You gotta let us know how you did. 2 Star Wars. I hate Echo. It's stupidly hard.
It was so hard, and I remember I rented it. And those were the type of games when you'd rent them from like Blockbuster or something as a kid, and you'd have them for like 3 days for the weekend basically, and I'd rent it. And it's not like my parents would go out and get me another game to rent if I didn't like the one that I rented, but I felt like it was such a bust because I played it for like maybe part of half a day, and I'm like, this is way too hard. And there was my rental for the weekend, so I had to wait until the next weekend to rent another game.
See, now I'm just going to try to jump ahead a little bit here. I will hit up Quinlan here. The oldest games I've ever played are Mario, Duck Hunt, and Contra on the original NES. Yeah, we talked about them a little bit. Yeah. Amazing. They still do. They're still great games, and they're classics. They're a mark in gaming history.
Yeah, and Contra is one of those games, correct me if I'm wrong, that you can play co-op.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep, that's another fun one to do too, but still hard. Even as co-op, it was hard.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Contra is super hard.
But
That's again classic game.
yeah, you were mentioning like going to rent games and such.
Yeah.
Now, when I got turned on to the RPG style gaming, my good friend growing up, Ryan, he, his parents were very, I would say they were wealthy, so he
Well,
had his own computer and he had, his PlayStation, but we would go to the video store and rent games, and we rented Final Fantasy VII. Okay, that was my first initial, and we played it, and I would watch him, and then I would take a turn. We'd take turns. We were both cool like that. And I was so just mesmerized by that game. Like I just couldn't, we stayed up all night. Obviously back then when you're young, that's what you did. You stayed up all night, you ate rubbish, and you gamed.
you gamed, yeah. I think like you, Final Fantasy VII was the first JRPG that I really got into. I actually I'd heard so many things about it. I remember playing like the Final Fantasy games as a kid,
Yeah.
but the way I got into it, I think I have it over here somewhere. I brought it over with props just like you. But Final Fantasy VII, I got this at Blockbuster Greatest Hits, and I remember not having really played the game ever, just trying it out, maybe at a friend's house or something like that. But I was like, I'll just it was like $20, so I was like, I'll just buy it and try it, and I just fell in love with it. I played the heck out of it.
Oh yeah, I bought it on the Switch. I've recently played it like a year and a half ago. I played it again, and they beefed it up with where you can like do it times 3 times speed.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
which is very helpful through some of the, but that's the whole point of them games, the grind.
Yeah.
I remember just spending hours running around the same area, just trying
to
to
level up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But see, the thing is like the grind, when you get older, you have less time to play video games. So I actually think it's a really cool quality of life improvement when they allow you to turn off random encounters, or they allow you to speed up battles, because it's, like people like you and me, where we have, kids and a full-time job. It's so tough to devote time to playing video games. So I wouldn't mind if they sped up battles.
No.
The end result's the same. You're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. I'm still putting in the time. It's
Right.
just a little, it's a bit more respectful of my time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. It's just for kids nowadays if they were to pick that up, I mean, I believe you can even put on God mode where you don't die or your limit break keeps
Really?
Yeah, it's insane. There's little tricks to the trade there.
Just walk through the game.
Yeah, but I mean, it is helpful because the game was long. Like, our perception of time as we get older obviously changes. Like summer vacation is when I gamed a lot. Everybody did.
Sure.
But it just felt like you didn't have a job. You didn't have to do nothing. So time felt like it drug on. Now it's like you go to work, you take care of your responsibilities, and you try to sit down and game a little bit or work on the content that you or I or others create for, being creators.
Yeah.
Especially I want to plug your channel really, really quick here. The Revanchist, you guys, amazing narrator. This gentleman's got a fantastic voice. He does a great job reading. He's incorporating a lot of different sound effects, getting other people such as Meg Reviews, Magneto Alex to be a part of it. It's incredible. It's top-notch material. And I'm not just saying that because you're my friend. It's the truth.
Oh, thank you, man.
So everyone check him out.
Yeah, there'll be something out today, a short story. No special guest this time, just me. But it's like 4 or 5 minutes.
Still got a great voice.
Yeah. Oh man.
Ooh, Everlast, top 3. Really? That's insane. That is insane. Did you get to use the glove? That's one thing I wish I would have had for Nintendo as a kid, was the power glove. That was so cool.
Could never afford it, man. I had to pick and choose.
They made that movie too, The Wizard, with
The Wizard. That's right.
Shoot, what's his name now? I can't. Ben Savage.
Yeah.
Ben Savage. That was a classic movie. If anyone has not seen that, that's watching or are checking this out later, check out the Wizard movie.
That's like pure 80s nostalgia, that movie.
Yeah, amazing.
Fred Savage, right? The guy from
Fred.
The
yeah, Ben is his brother. He played in the other show.
Yeah.
With Topanga. I can't remember
Boy Meets World?
Boy Meets World.
Yeah.
See, we're a good duo. My mind's not there, man. I get a little tuned up sometimes. And then
I used to watch the show all the time.
That's a classic show. Let's see here. Oh, Everlast. Up, up, down, down, left, right, B, A, select. There you go, man.
That's the famous code. That's the cheat code.
Yeah.
What's the company again? Is it Vaughn? If you remember, just tell me in the comments or something like that. What's the company that's associated with? I think it's the same company that made Contra.
What was the blood code? ABACBBA for Mortal Kombat? ABACABB.
Konami. It's the Konami code. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see here. I don't know why I thought this was starting later. I missed a few. Oh, no worries. Good games. Welcome. Appreciate you watching.
Plug this guy's channel. Only Good Games is a good friend of mine.
Yes.
Yeah, he is. He has a great channel if you're into video games. He talks about the vintage stuff. He talks about the newer stuff. He did a Tears of the Kingdom review for Zelda recently. Definitely check him out. Subscribe to his channel.
Yes.
He has some Star Wars stuff on there too, but also video games. If you want to trip down memory lane, then definitely check out his YouTube channel and his Instagram page. Tons of great stuff on there.
Does a lot of good, interesting stuff. Yeah, and especially with Yu-Gi-Oh cards as well. He's got some good material out there for everyone.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Magneto Alex, playing RPGs like Dragon Age and Mass Effect even still takes so much time. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
I know. So Dragon Age and Mass Effect are like second generation computer RPGs for me. I mean, I know they're on consoles, but I played them on the computer. For first generation for me was like Baldur's Gate 1 and 2.
Oh yeah.
Torment. Like I started playing those in high school because all my friends were into them at the time. But those were like really involved games.
In depth. Yeah. They were a little too much for me. I like the RPG. I like a good story. Like we can talk about Skyrim. That's a classic. Everybody talks about that.
Yeah.
And that game, you put time in. Okay, that's a time. Like I don't have that kind of time, but to me, that is the style of gaming that I like. But I like things simplified, like Diablo 2 or Final Fantasy 7. How you equip things in materia, and you can put in the slots, and you get effects, or the stat tree where you can put strength. Some of them classic role-playing games like Baldur's Gate, they go a little in depth where it's I don't want to say I like it like a simple version of it, we'll say.
Yeah. Well, they're D&D games, right? They're D&D computer games, and like so you have like your alignment that you have to worry about. You have a party of 6, and each one of them has their own attributes, their own weapons, their own armor that you have to upgrade or equip. They have, if the magic users have different spells, you have to allocate skill points. So it's like you're playing 6 different characters. It's pretty intense. It can be intense, like choosing the spells. When you're a wizard, you have to like relearn the spells and like learn a new set each day that you want to learn, that you want to prepare. And so it's a lot of work for a kid. I was in high school, so it was a little easier. But like for a younger kid, it's a lot of work to do that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But they're done very well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Quinlan Voss, yeah, good games, best round. Oh yes, he is. Absolutely. Good game says your house looks amazing.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, it's deceptive. It's actually pretty small because my city, it's pretty expensive to own a house here, so this was all we could afford. But it's good. It's cool down here where it's like really really hot upstairs.
Yeah, that's why my room's downstairs as well, and it's always way cooler. In the winter, it's like I gotta have a sweater on, but the dog likes it down here.
Yeah.
Everlast, you could demo the glove at the championship. Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. Yeah. Man, I could there was nothing like gaming like in the late 80s and early 90s, man. Nothing was like it. And if I miss anybody in the chat, I just want to say I'm sorry. Everyone's talking, having a great time. This is a great conversation, and I know everyone's got thoughts and ideas, and I'll do my best to get you guys. Just want to let you know, and I appreciate you tuning in and checking us out. But go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I was going to show off, since you showed off the Final Fantasy VII game. This is my original strategy guide from when I was a kid.
Oh man,
it's really beat up, kind of. The pages are all intact.
That's so cool. That is so cool. I love strategy guides. They were like collector's item in their own right.
Oh yeah. Oh,
yeah,
yes.
They'd have like additional lore inside of them. They'd have like, it went beyond like how to beat the game. They'd have like production notes. Oh, so good.
Oh, I had to order that through our local bookstore. Had to order that for me. B. Dalton was the name of the bookstore. And I went there a few times to pre-order some strategy guides. Let's just say
Yeah.
that. I also have the original Final Fantasy Tactics strategy guide
Oh, that's so
from
cool.
when I was a kid. Yeah.
And I think you also have Final Fantasy Tactics. I saw that jewel case earlier. I think you might want to show that off.
Yeah.
Too.
Original black label.
Look at that.
Yeah.
That's in really good shape. You must have taken good care of your. Yeah. Look at that.
Oh yeah, I took care of it. I appreciated my stuff, because like you were saying, you don't just get everything you want, right? As a kid,
Yeah.
like whether it's Christmas or your birthday or some holiday, my first I remember exactly when I got the original Final Fantasy VII, which you showed off, which is mine.
Yeah, mine's the greatest hits. I got it afterwards.
I got mine for Easter one year, and it was hidden, kind of. They hid it on me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I got this game, Final Fantasy IX, for Christmas.
Black label.
Yeah, but the funny thing is that because Canadian, on the back it said Francais, right? I think you can sort of see it.
Yeah, I can see it a little bit. Yep.
Yeah. So when I got it as a kid, for Christmas, I was so upset because I was like, I can't speak French. I don't know. I can't understand French. So I was like, is this did my parents get me the French game? And no, it was it's like English and French. Like there was a French option that you could choose to change the audio to French. But I was so upset at the time, and I couldn't show my upset because I didn't want my parents to feel bad. But I was like, oh, I can't play this game because it's not in my language. Luckily, it wasn't that wasn't the case. But I just remember that that memory very vividly, opening it up and seeing French on the back.
Man, I would have been so bummed if I would have put it in and started to play it, and also the French language came up or the subtitles.
The only time this happened to me where I did get a French game, Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, which is one of the, in my opinion, the greatest games ever made.
Yes.
I played that game the first time ever in French. I had no idea what was going on. I could not read a single line of dialogue. Like I took, here in Canada, they make you take French for the first 8-9 years of school. Okay. But I was barely ever paid attention. So I beat that game for the first time in French. And then I went eventually back when it came out. For the Wii, you could buy classic games again. And I bought Link to the Past, and I played it in English for the first time, and I was like, oh man, this is such a great story. I missed it the first time around completely because I had to play the game in French. That was the only time that happened to me, and it was by accident. I bought it off of some third-party vendor, and it was just in French.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's like a collector's item,
Yeah, my sister still has it. She has all her Super NES games.
Oh, that's so. I wish I still had some of my stuff. I don't have everything. I got rid of it through the years, and sometimes I kick myself, but then it's well, they're now they're remastering everything. You can buy it in a little port. They're putting big collections together, like we mentioned before. So it's I guess it depends on the consumer who wants it, right?
Right.
Just like anything, just like Star Wars, and we see that with books and comics and collectibles. We've talked about this before, and everything is kind of through the roof. Even I've looked up prices for older strategy guides for other games that I'd like to have, and it's ooh, that's a little high for my taste.
It's expensive. So let me ask you then, that kind of leads into something else. ROMs and emulators, did you ever do that? You ever do the emulation thing?
I did the emulator thing for a little while back on I think 98.
Yeah,
it was 98, and XP I did it a little bit on, and that was cool because I remember playing Earthbound. If you remember that game for Super.
On an emulator, yeah,
classic RPG for Super Nintendo, classic.
Yeah. So Earthbound's one that I've never played. I have the Super NES Classic Edition, which is that small Super NES that comes preloaded with 30 or 40 games.
Yeah,
and it's on there. So one day I will play it, but I've never played Earthbound. But I know it obviously from Smash Bros. And I think Ness is the main character.
Yeah,
I want to get.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wanted to say hi to Scott Johnson. Thanks for stopping in, man. Appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Scott.
Welcome, buddy. Hope you're doing well. And Brennan, thanks for stopping in and watching us. Have a good time at church, and we'll both talk to you soon, I'm sure. And we got Only Good Games here. Do you have a lot of PS1 or PS2 games, Marcel or myself? I don't have a lot of PS1 or PS2 games anymore. I kept my Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2, Final Fantasy 7, and Final Fantasy Tactics.
That's it, eh?
That's what I kept. That's I had 8 and 9, but I have them now on the Switch. So I don't. I still have my regular PS1 and all my memory cards, and my PS2 and the memory cards.
Yeah.
Which it was a few years ago. I was actually playing Guitar Hero with my wife and kids, and I popped in some of my old memory cards, and my saves are all still there.
Yep, they still work. I did the same thing with my PS2 last year because I bought the Clone Wars game for PS2, and because they never remastered it or came out with it again for Steam or anything like that. So it had a Tales of the Jedi connection. I wanted to play it, so I busted out my PS2, like blew the dust off of it, and the memory card still worked. I was astounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say, when I got Final Fantasy VII and I had a PlayStation, I didn't have a memory card for the longest time.
Oh, dude, what did you do?
I played the game and I would shut it off and replay it and shut it off and replay it. And I would talk on the phone with my buddy Ryan, I'm like, man, I got to start over again. And he would start over with me and we would play, like talk on the phone, and I'd play and I'd get so far. And then I had to shut the system off. So I got really good in the beginning of Final Fantasy VII for so long.
Yeah.
But that's just, I think of that now and it's like, man, was that time just starting over every single time? But as a
kid, we didn't care, right? You could do that kind of thing. And it's like when you watch the same movie like 20 times as a kid and you don't care because you have all the time in the world.
Yeah. And then I finally got my memory card. Okay. Yeah. I finally got that. I was playing through the game, and then I don't know if you remember or anyone listening in the chat, but the W item materia where you had to run back through the train and it would be at the back. And if you didn't do it, you were missed. You never got the W item.
Yeah.
Unless you beat the emerald or ruby weapon. Can't remember which one when you would get the all materia or the master materia.
Yeah.
So I missed it. So I had to get like the gold chochobo the hard way, because you could just keep redoing the greens and it just got expensive to buy the greens, right?
Yeah.
To feed, they're trying to catch their nuts to make them, breed. So that really stunk that I missed that. So I had to restart again because it's like, I'm not going to go through the game without that.
Yeah. Yeah. I developed like a phobia around missing things in games because I'm kind of a completist in that sense. But sometimes and now that I'm older, I've kind of gone back to this. It's just nice to kind of just play the game without, worrying about that kind of thing. And then maybe going back and playing it again if it's not too long. Final Fantasy X. Final Fantasy X, I think, was the first one that had voice actors, and I thought that was really cool. I liked Final Fantasy X. It's not one of my favorites, but I thought it was great.
Yeah, I never beat Final Fantasy X. I've only played it a little bit, and what turned me off was the voice acting at first. And I know that's terrible to say because we know who voices, the man's got an incredible voice, and I didn't even realize that was him until recently, to be honest with all you guys. I didn't know he voiced him. I can't even think of his name now off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Voice actor. He does Obi-Wan. Somebody chat, let me know. He's quick on the keyboard. I can't think of his name, but he voices so many characters. I had not,
James Arnold Taylor.
That's it. James Arnold Taylor. And yes, it was hardcore of me. Good games.
Look at that.
Yeah. He voices a lot of stuff, but I was so used to reading, like growing up as a kid playing them games. It was all dialogue that you read. All the chat. So all of a sudden he's starting to talk and I'm like, oh, this is kind of weird. So I was just used to the, the blockier figures, the character types like Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy VIII. It was okay, but different, right? Like the whole system, you weren't really supposed to level up your character. You weren't supposed to grind like you used to.
Yeah. Final Fantasy VIII was very strange. 9 was kind of like a return to form a bit, but 8 was very strange. But I've come to appreciate it in recent years. I replayed it back in January of 2020 before everything went crazy in the world, and I really enjoyed it because I played it like you. played these games on the Switch with the quality of life improvements. Like you could
Yep.
speed up battles and you could do that kind of thing. And it made the game like so much shorter and so much easier to play, because like that's the thing is like these Final Fantasy games, like the storyline is usually only like 30 to 40 hours long, which sounds short, but I mean, comparatively speaking for RPGs, that's short. But then you spend so much more time playing these games because you want to like try and collect everything, or you're just exploring, and like that's the beauty of the games, right? You can just get lost in that world.
Oh yeah, I did that with 7 so much, because then I want to get all my characters to level 99. Like, right, that was the big achievement.
Yeah.
Now in games you have achievements, you know, on the newer systems. Which
Yeah.
the newest system that I have is a Switch. Like I've never had a PS4 or a PS3. Excuse me, an Xbox One. I've never owned any of that. My kids own the Xbox Ones, and they have their own PCs now. But so I was a completist, like you said. I want to get all the secret stuff, the strategy guides. I'm going through it. You can do this side mission. You know, you can get Yuffie. If you didn't have a strategy guide or access to the internet, which was very limited back then during these times, you had no idea.
Yeah, Yuffie and Vincent, I think, was the other secret character that you could unlock.
Yeah.
And I had no idea. And you'd learn about it, like at least for me, at recess, word of mouth. People would they'd tell you like, hey, if you do this, then you could unlock this character. And then I'd be like, oh, I gotta go home right now and try. And sometimes I'd go home for lunch because I lived right next to my school when I was a kid, and I'd try it out, and like my mom, get back to school, you're gonna be late.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but I'd have to like wait until school was done. I'd rush home and I got to try this out.
Let me ask you this: as a kid, if you stayed home sick, did your folks let you play on your systems if you were sick, or did you have to stay in bed?
No, man, I was the best I could get away with was daytime TV.
Really?
That's it. Yeah,
Okay.
My parents weren't super strict they were like weirdly strict about some things, and that was one of them. It's like, well, if you're sick, then you're obviously too sick to play video games.
Yeah, well, see, yeah, it's funny. I would let my kids play because it's like, you're sick, you want to feel good, and if you're really sick, you're not going to play. Like if you're like sick beyond the point of sick, if that makes sense.
For sure.
You know? But my wife is like, nah, they're off their stuff until they're back to school.
Yeah, I mean, well, these days there's like they have mobile games, most of the kids,
Yeah.
right? And so it's just like they don't even have to, like they could play wherever they are.
Right. Check the chat here.
Yes.
Huge ROM player, good advised by original controllers, convert to USB. The controller are way better, and yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah, I try and use the original controllers wherever possible. Like I'm a huge fan of the Dark Souls series and the Soulsborne series, as they call them, and I've played through every one of those games, and I have some of them on the computer, and I will hook up like a PlayStation controller to my computer so I could play it that way, because it's impossible to play. Those games are impossible to play with
keyboard and mouse.
No, you can't do it. It's impossible.
Some games you need the keyboard and mouse. No.
Yes.
Like a first-person shooter. See, I can't play first-person shooters on a controller. It's like I'm handicapped, and I'm not. You know what I mean? Like I just can't do it. It feels wrong.
Yeah.
Right. To Star Wars nerds, I put an unholy number of hours into Guitar Hero. Probably my biggest flex.
Yeah.
Well, you guys should do a video on that. You guys jamming to some Guitar Hero. That's a classic game. That's so
Guitar Hero.
Fun. Yeah.
And before that, it was Dance Dance Revolution. Did you ever play DDR?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember my first job ever. I spent my first paycheck on a mat, like a dance mat for Dance Dance Revolution. Because I got a PS2 earlier, like that year. I got it, I think, like for Christmas, and it came with Final Fantasy X. And I remember DDR was like a popular thing to do at the arcades in high school, and so I wanted to like get really good at it so I could impress girls.
Great. Hey, girls like a guy that can dance.
Yeah. So I ended up using my first paycheck to pay for that game mat.
That's cool. And plus, it kind of, I mean, if you're dancing around your house making a bunch of noise, your parents, you're jumping off the couch. You know what I mean? You're having a good time.
It was good cardio. It's good cardio. I mean, like as an adult, I'd probably die if I tried to do it. But
Mrs. B here.
Hello.
Super Mario is the best game of all time. There's overlap of who played this game or that, but everyone knows and loves Mario. Yep. It is. It's a staple game. We played it together. So
classic. It's a classic game.
Vaughn Everlast. About 6 months again, I replayed NES FF1 again. Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit earlier. That's just like, it's when you're a kid, it's just one of them hard games to understand. But now it's like, yeah, I was like, man, that's cool. I love them old, like you mentioned, Zelda: Link to the Past. Best Zelda game ever, in my opinion.
Well, here's a Zelda game. It's a little beat up because when you're a kid, you don't like take as good care of things. My PlayStation games are in much better shape, but this is the original gold cartridge for Legend of Zelda, I believe the very first one.
That's amazing.
NES. Yeah, and I I love that game, but it was way too hard for me as a kid. I think, I had no clue where to go because the overworld map was just, I don't know, it was very, very difficult for a kid.
Yeah, I think before we started this off, we were talking a little bit, and it's like I was thinking about buying that. The Switch came out with the collection of like Final Fantasy 1, 2, 3, 4, all on a package deal, like pixely remastered. And you said it looked good. You played Final Fantasy 2, correct?
Yes, I played it not on the Switch, but it's the same game.
Yeah,
I played it on Steam, Final Fantasy 2, because that was one I have this goal to play every single Final Fantasy game. I got pretty far in 14, which was the MMO. Like there was one point where I was almost caught up, but they've just kept pumping out content for it, and I just can't keep up. And I don't want to pay a monthly subscription for a game I'm not going to play.
I know that's kind of the downfall. Like I played World of Warcraft, and it was a great game. It's fun. Another one of them games you got to put time in, right? But I just don't like that you got to pay to. I mean, I understand because they do work the servers and they got to fix and patch things, and there's a whole bunch of behind the scenes stuff that we're not aware of. But it's kind of pricey to just play it every now and then.
Yeah. The other issue with 14 is that it has a really, really active community, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of the mission, you can't play that game solo. There's some MMORPGs like SWTOR, like Star Wars: The Old Republic, you can play solo. Yeah. But 14, you cannot play solo. You get linked up with people in this group finder thing, and you have to co-op to beat missions in order to advance in the story. You just can't do it solo. And I kind of have like anxiety because I'm like, I'm not as good in this game as someone who plays it constantly.
Right.
And I don't want them to like call me out for being bad at the game or something like that, especially, and so like, I'm just like, maybe, MMOs where it's co-op are not for me unless you're playing with buddies.
Yeah.
But in this game, I'm not. I don't know anyone else who plays Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah. I've never tried a Final Fantasy MMO. Never was my cup of tea. Like I said, I always reverted back to like 7. That's the one I played the most out of all.
7?
Yeah.
So let me ask you then, have you played 7 Remake?
No.
Okay.
I don't own, well, my son has a PS4.
Yeah.
But I don't want to borrow that, and that's his.
Sure.
And I was just talking with one of my friends yesterday, Andy, about this because they just recently released, I believe, the trailer for the part 2 that's coming out. That's going to be 2 discs, I believe.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So check that out, man. It's like, it's I lit a fire in me. It's like, okay, I really want to play this game now because I'm a turn-based player.
Yeah.
I'm not real time. That's not me. I'm not quick anymore. My eyes ain't that good.
Sure. Yeah. It's real time to a certain extent.
No, now they added a patch or what have you to the game where you can change it to classic mode where it is turn-based now.
To the
remake.
Oh man, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yes.
I want to go back and play it now. So I never played. They came out with a patch, or not a patch. They came out with an expansion to it. I think Remake. I never played the expansion, but I played Remake when it first came out on PS4, and I thought that game was beautiful. It's just like the cutscenes are absolutely beautiful. But the issue with Remake is that they take the first like 4 hours or 5 hours of the original game and they stretch it out for like 30 to 40.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
And that's crazy because I'm like, how many? I think they said there's going to be 3 in total, but it's like how they're really going to have to kind of rush through the other 20 to 30 hours of the game.
You're right.
Just to get through everything.
Well, maybe they'll stretch it out more. I don't know. And then I was having that debate where because you could purchase it on Steam, Final Fantasy, the remake. You can get it on Steam. Okay. So do I really want to buy myself a console, a PS4 or a PS5, which the smart thing to do would get a PS5, but not to play any other games? Does that make
Yeah.
you know what I'm trying to say? Like, that's not. I just want to play the remake. I want to play the fresh because I remember talking with my friends back in school, like, oh, after the PS2 came out and the graphics got better and even PCs, it's like, man, if they ever remake this game, I don't care what if I'll buy a whole new house to play this game, whatever, I'll buy whatever that I have to play this game.
Yeah.
And now it's been out for a while and I have yet to play it.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, I turned into more of a PC gamer, right? Like, I loved playing StarCraft. We talked about Diablo 2. I played numerous hours of StarCraft. My aunt was the first one in our family that had a computer.
Yeah. So like StarCraft and StarCraft 2 were those games that we would. Okay, let me ask you actually, because this is related to StarCraft and also Warcraft and Diablo. There you go. Yeah.
The original.
The OG.
95.
Have you ever been to like an internet cafe?
No, but we did have one here.
Okay. We used to go to one sometimes in high school, and it was really only so that we could all like sit in the same room with computers and play like StarCraft with one another.
That is awesome.
It was so, because there's one right by my high school. It was such a surreal experience. And like these days, nobody does. I don't even know if they still exist. I'm sure they probably do. But it was such a surreal experience to like sit in the same room with your friends and play a computer game because, for the most part, like we'd be trying to play. Like you could like create like a LAN party or something like that. But we never really had that opportunity again. Like, not like the richest kids ever. And to play StarCraft 2 with one another, oh man, what a treat!
Oh, it's just 2 days ago for the first time. Like, I have the remastered StarCraft, and you could play the original, like the non-remastered version. How I grew up playing it, you play it for free on Blizzard's site. Well, I had my son download it. I'm like, you gotta play this game with me. He's like, okay, Dad. I almost wanted to cry afterwards because he was up in his room. I was on my computer and I was playing StarCraft with my son, and we were just battling a computer. He's learning. He doesn't know. I grew up typing. We didn't have microphones and stuff, so we would type to our friends or in the chat. So I'm trying to explain to him, do this. I'm like, never mind, son. I'll just protect us. Play the game, have fun with it, learn, quick build stuff, see what it does. And he had a blast. So that was like a really good experience for me because I played a lot of that growing up, and
That's awesome.
To have my son playing it now is just really cool.
Yeah, it's funny. I was looking through my my Steam
library.
Yeah, my Steam library, and it says I've put 282 hours into the Old Republic. The next biggest one is Neverwinter Nights 2. I put 108 hours in, and then Pillars of Eternity 1 and 2. I put like 80 and 90 hours in respectively. These are all RPGs that I would play on. Yeah, let me ask you: have you ever played Classic Series? I mean, probably one of the biggest games in the world when the third installment came out, but the Witcher series.
No, I have no.
Oh, you got to get the first couple on Steam and try them out.
I heard it's good.
Yeah.
I have a good friend, Spencer. He kind of keeps me up to date on games because he's a big gamer and he plays all like Mass Effect and all this newer stuff, The Witcher, and he just he tells me he's playing Jedi Survivor right now. He sent me a video the other day.
Yeah.
Really cool. I've not played that. I've never even played the first one. But so he keeps me up to date on some of the newer stuff, which is cool. We were talking about the Star Wars game here. Only Good Game says best Star Wars game for me is always the Revenge of the Sith PS2 game. I've played that game countless times and would be down to play it anytime. And I love how you can get the alternate Anakin ending. That's cool.
So I've never played that game, but I've heard from people that it has the best lightsaber combat in any Star Wars game. Someone's going to have to verify that for me in the chat. Maybe Old Good Games.
Yeah. But yeah, because I've never played that either, but I did play this here. Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy. I played this a lot.
Yeah.
And that was basically online. I played it, and you would just go around with a lightsaber hacking and slashing people till it was just, and then you could download custom skins. I mean, I don't know if you remember that or anyone else you had to download custom skins if you wanted to have Darth Maul, and people would mod the games back then. It was like it was harder to do back then than what it is today.
Right. Okay, we're gonna jump back in time for a second because we said we're both not really great at first-person shooters, but surely you've played Doom.
Oh yeah.
Classic game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh god, the soundtrack for that game is just off the walls incredible.
Yeah. Did you play
Yeah.
the remastered when they like revamped it?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, I have all the Doom games. I've only played through half of them, but I'm gonna play through all of them eventually.
Yeah. I used to be oh man, my cousin Kim, I would go over to her house sometimes, and her dad had a computer in the basement. And their basement was done up nice, and we always played in the dark, and it would scare the crap out of me because I was really young and I was in the basement, and the playing Doom back then, and all the sound, even the sound effects were done
Yeah.
so good on that game back then. It was scary.
Yeah.
What's your favorite first person shooter game? Let me ask you that. I know we were talking about that a little bit.
Ooh, well, you know what? Actually, I put a lot of time. It's not really first person; it's like first person / RPG. But I put a lot of time into the Borderland games.
Oh,
yeah. Have you ever played Borderlands before?
No.
It's almost, in a sense, kind of reminds me of Diablo in that you can just pick up so many different weapons and items and stuff like that, and your inventory fills up really quickly. But and you can level up your character and allocate skill points. But the Borderland games are you basically shoot people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know of them, but I never.
Yeah.
The only one that I really played a lot of is Call of Duty United Offensive.
Yeah, for a more traditional type of first-person shooter game, I would probably say the Doom games.
Yeah. Right.
Like something like Doom 64 is a classic, and Doom 2016, Doom Eternal came out I think a couple years ago.
Yep.
I remember it was funny because Doom Eternal came out like the same week that like Animal Crossing came out for the Switch.
Oh, and people love that game.
Right. And it was funny because there's two types of gamers: the people that are lining up for Animal Crossing, and the two people that are lining up for Doom Eternal. And I was like, oh man, I want both of those games though. I just don't have time.
Well, I know, man. Scott Johnson says Rock Band was the best house party. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Oh
yes,
man,
it was.
Yeah, Rock Band, Guitar Hero, they were always great games to play with people at house parties.
Yeah. Oh, I was always on the drums. I always had to be the drummer. I learned to play the drums a little bit years ago, and it was fun. And my one buddy always had to play the guitar and sing, Buddy James. He had a good voice. True Star Wars nerds, I sucked at DDR. Maybe I missed that in the chat somewhere. Just kind of scrolling through here. Final Fantasy X and X2 were my first entry. I was always late to the game. Yeah.
Yeah, X2 is interesting because if you 100%ed that game, you could unlock the secret ending, and I never did, but I always wanted to.
Yeah. I never played X2. I have both of them for the Switch. It's because if you bought X10, then you got like a download code for X2.
That's right.
Never played it. Buddy Brock here. Brock OG. Crisis Core FF7 remake was amazing. Haven't played the first part though.
Oh yeah, this is on my wish list, but I haven't bought it. Yeah,
I haven't got it either. Did you play the one for the PSP?
The original Crisis Core. I think? No, I didn't. And there's Dissidia, I think, was also a PSP game. Final Fantasy Dissidia or something like that. Never played those games. No. I did have a PSP, but I bought it for Metal Gear Solid games.
Really?
Yeah, I have actually. Well, my sister has it now, but she has a Metal Gear Solid PSP. Like they come out with a console, like a Zelda version of the console, or this was it was like a camo PSP, and it was like a Metal Gear Solid variant edition of the PSP.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, I never played it. I had a PSP for a little while, but it was just a time thing, and I just handheld, like you kind of grew off of the handhelds after a while. Like they were cool, but now with the Switch, since they brought it back, you got a whole different aspect to it. You can plug it in and have it on your TV, but
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Scott Johnson says GoldenEye always seemed like the best first-person shooter, but I got the remake in 2010 on Wii, and it didn't do that good. Really? I didn't even know they remade it.
GoldenEye was one of those games I remember I had to I wanted to trade in a whole bunch of my existing games that I bought that I had already owned just so I could buy GoldenEye because we played it so much as kids. And now when I play it, I get like motion sickness because the graphics are not great. But I played that so much when I
Yeah,
was a kid. Yeah.
me too. Me too. I did you ever play Gauntlet Legends for the 64?
What, Gauntlet Legends?
Gauntlet Legends. Remember, it was an arcade thing where you were a warrior or an archer or a sorceress, and it was all co-op, 4-player, and it was just
Yes.
kind of like a
Yes.
dungeon smasher.
Yes, I did play that game. I never
Yeah.
owned it though. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic! They made a part 2, and I think you can even buy it on the PlayStation.
Yeah. There's one game we haven't spoke about that I would be remiss if I never even mentioned. Super Mario RPG.
Oh my goodness! Yes,
Yeah.
I had a list here I wrote down just so everyone knows.
Oh
But,
yeah.
like,
Okay. Is that on there?
No, it's not.
Okay.
But like video game, like we could talk for hours about this,
Hours,
especially in the chat. Like we've all been. I see you guys are having conversations in there amongst yourselves as well. But there's just so many games. But Super Mario RPG, man,
Yeah.
I can't believe I forgot about that.
Yeah. It was a classic. It's funny because there was a part in that game that I was stuck on as a kid, and it was the part, I don't know if you remember, but like Bowser kidnaps, or maybe it's not Bowser at that point. I think actually, so
Was it Koopa? One of the jacked up. Oh,
no, I think it might have been, yeah, Bowser. I think kidnaps Princess Peach, and he's gonna marry her, and you have to crash the wedding. And I could not get into the church because I kept hitting the door, and I just did not know how to get past that part. And the idea is that there are these people who are rushing the door with a cake, and you're supposed to rush the door at the same time that they do, so that you can
so
all
you smash
pass
it.
through at the same time. And I never learned how to get past that part until I read it in like a Nintendo Power magazine, like 3 months later. And then I went out and I rented the game again and completely finished it after that. But that part just stumped me as a kid.
Man, I never beat that game. I just want to say I never beat that game.
Oh, you have to. You gotta go and play it.
There was a group of us that we would always like trade. So we were, like you said, you would go and trade games in, or you would trade amongst your friends. Like we would always change. The games would change hands a lot. Let's say, right? So that's one. Like I believe I traded for Earthbound because Earthbound was the thing, and I used to have the strategy guide for that too. But we were talking about losing stuff. I can't find it anymore. And I looked it up one time, and it was up there over $100 just for that strategy guide.
Yeah.
You know,
they can get pricey.
Yeah. What did you ever play Final Fantasy Tactics? I know I showed that off before. We didn't touch on that. Did you ever play that?
No. Okay. So I've never played Tactics, and I need to play Tactics, and I just don't know where I can play it on. I don't know if they've like remastered it or something like that. No.
Nothing.
Never.
Mm-mm.
Oh man. Okay. Well, I mean, I think PlayStation 2s are backwards compatible for certain games, not all of them.
Yeah.
So if it's backwards compatible for Final Fantasy Tactics, then I'll probably just go buy it on eBay.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I can always send it to you and you can try it.
No, man.
You know what I mean? Because I don't know. At one time, it was a pricey game, but it's probably my second favorite game of all time.
Here, let's take a look.
Because, and I'll explain why.
Yeah.
I love the chessboard style feel to the game. I think the graphics are flawless in my opinion. The maps are beautiful. But how you can change, there's so many job classes to choose from. And you gotta build levels up or character attributes before you unlock the next level. So like just for an example, if you want to be a wizard, you got to be a level 2 squire and a level 3 chemist. So it makes you try different characters out to achieve different, like aspects. And the one thing that bothers me is that they did remake it for the PSP, and they added 2 job classes to it that aren't on the original for PlayStation 1, which really upsets me. The Dark Knight, and I can't remember the other one. But this was a game, I bought it at a Kmart. I remember that. I saved up money, got it at a Kmart because this was one my friend Ryan and I rented, and we just loved it. And he got it before I did, the son of a gun. But I had a memory card by this time, so I was okay because trying to restart this game because the battles took a little bit of time. because you had like there was just so many different options to choose from and fighting styles, and it's Marcel, I'm going to send it to you tomorrow and you're going to play it.
Well, there's a comment here from Vaughn. It's like the most recent comment where he says FF Tactics ROM is available. You know, Vaughn should know this. I'm a collector just like he is, so I have to get the game now. Hey Jade Light.
Hey Jade, how you doing?
I was gonna say I was looking on eBay and it's like maybe like 30 American to get Tactics.
Really?
So, yeah, so it's not super pricey.
Good.
So I might have to just pick up a copy and try my luck. Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of good comments actually. We can go back in the chat a bit.
Yeah, I've been trying to keep up with, like I said, for all you guys watching, I appreciate it. Sometimes it's hard to. A lot of people have some good input here.
And I think Only Good Games had a question for you, a versus question. You go up.
Oh, there it is. Mario RPG versus Earthbound. Which do you prefer? Earthbound.
Oh. Now I need to play Earthbound, man.
Earthbound's a good game. They're both great. You know what? And at one time they were hard. They were so hard to get back then, and even now. Well, I don't know about now because I haven't looked in a while. But at one point I was trying to re-get some of these games. Like, I mentioned Breath of Fire. I don't know if any of you played the Breath of Fire series, but Breath of Fire 3 for PS1 and Breath of Fire 4. I actually had my local video store, it was called Family Video, order me Breath of Fire 4, and I bought it from them because you just couldn't find it in the stores here.
Isn't that amazing how you used to be able to like have the video store order you the game? Here, there's a game here that I have. Let me see if I can find it in my pile. This game I had to get ordered especially because I could not find it anywhere, and I just wanted to play it so bad. Monster Rancher.
Look at that.
And now they've come out with a version for the Switch, Monster Rancher 1 and 2. But I had to order it special just so I could play it. And it's kind of like Monster Rancher is kind of like, it had its own anime show, but it's kind of like Tamagotchi / Pokemon in the sense that you raise monsters and make them fight against one another.
Oh.
But it's more like it's more like you're a rancher. Like you don't walk around like an overworld, getting into battles with people. Like you raise your monster. You have to like feed them certain foods, and you can unlock them. The cool thing about Monster Rancher 1 and 2 is that, and I guess the third one, but I never played it, was that you would have to scour your house for different CDs. Like Metallica, for instance, would unlock a certain monster. And the way it would work is like you'd pop open your PlayStation, which is like crazy, but the game would still be running. You'd take out your Monster Rancher disc and you'd put in like Metallica or like, I don't know, the Backstreet Boys or something like that. And it would unlock a certain monster.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It was absolutely crazy, these games. And now I think in the Switch version, you can just like unlock it manually, like through a menu or something like that. But there was a whole list of what CD would unlock certain monsters and like some of them were really good. And so I'd like go to school and ask friends, hey, do you have this CD by, I don't know, by like like REM or something like that? Or do you have this CD by like the Beatles? Because I need it to unlock this monster in Monster Rancher.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool. Scott John, I've never played that. I'm going to look into that because I didn't know I love it how they're, like I said, they're bringing games back to the Switch, making them more. Yeah. But Scott Johnson, what was Super Mario RPG? Was that different than Paper Mario? I don't remember that one. Yeah, it was basically the Mario world as like an RPG where they level up and they got special skills. I mean, Marcel's got a little more in-depth info because he played it a little more than I did. I traded mine for Earthbound. And Chrono Trigger too, man. Remember Chrono Trigger?
Okay, well, we're going to talk about Chrono Trigger.
Okay.
We're going to talk about it next. I was just going to answer Scott's question. That Paper Mario, I believe, was a bit more than a platformer in that it had a story that you would follow and stuff like that. But Super Mario RPG was really like your classic kind of RPG. You could equip items. Like you could, I think Mario used like a shell to attack people, and Princess Peach used a frying pan, and Bowser had like a ball and chain or something. And you can equip like better items.
It was more like. It was they didn't have swords and such. They kind of kept it more the Mario style of things.
And you could level up and like allocate points to like strength or defense or HP or whatever. But yeah, let's talk about Chrono Trigger, because that game is another game where we were talking about earlier about things that you miss.
Oh yeah.
There's a character in that game that you can unlock and use in the final part of the game. I'm not going to spoil it for people who maybe, actually, I guess I can spoil it. It's been out for like 20 years, but
I think they were making it, or they remade it recently too.
They remade it for the Switch, and that was okay. So Chrono Trigger is, in my opinion, one of the best RPGs ever made.
Yeah, I mean it's up there. And
yeah,
go ahead.
No, please.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it was SquareSoft back before they switched hands, to Square Enix. Like SquareSoft, they hands down made some of the best RPGs in my opinion.
And then the sequel that nobody loved, this they remade recently.
Yeah,
Chrono Cross.
I didn't mind it.
I liked it too. The only problem with Chrono Cross is that Chrono Trigger had like 7 or 8, I think, playable characters that you could swap in and out of your team. Chrono Cross had like 40.
Yeah.
And you can only have 3 or 4 at a time, I think. So it's like you had 40 people to choose from. But the music with Chrono Cross is absolutely fantastic.
Beautiful. I just want to say it's actually on my list of PlayStation games. It's right where my pen is. Chrono Cross. I wrote it on there. Did you see that?
Yeah.
It was on my list to talk about.
I saw a couple others on there we haven't spoken about. Yeah, like Twisted Metal and Parasite Eve. Let's talk about Twisted Metal.
Oh, man. I actually had a steering wheel for my PlayStation after a while. I don't know if you've ever had that.
No, but those commercials for the games, Twisted Metal, were always like off the walls and amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. Catch up here on the chat. I know there was something in here for you. I paid only good games. I paid like $500 for my physical cart of Earthbound a year ago after fees because it came from a Canadian seller.
Oh,
man.
I know only good games. I get those fees coming my way too from American sellers, so I know how it could be, man.
Magnino Alex here, not an RPG, but Deuces X is absolutely fantastic.
Have you never played the Deus Ex series? No? Okay, so Deus Ex is it's like a cyberpunk-esque game where you play a guy named JC Denton, I believe is his name, and you're like a modded spy, or not spy, agent for the government.
Okay.
And you have to like basically like put down like terrorist threats and stuff like that. And they made sequels to it, but this like they made like Deus Ex, I think Human Revolution, Mankind Divided, The Fall, but they're all really good games. My personal favorite, Alex, is Human Revolution. And Deus Ex games are cool because you can upgrade your character with different, like you can give them like, like super jump or whatever. Cause he's almost like a android, no, not android. Sorry. He's like a cyborg, right? He has like different implants and stuff like that. But you could play the game 2 different ways. You could be like all out, just killing everybody in sight, or you could play it stealth.
That's cool.
Yeah. You could
never heard of it.
Yeah. Cause every level had like a mission associated with it. You could play the entire mission stealth without ever having to kill a certain person. You'd have to incapacitate some people to get around, but you wouldn't have to kill a single person.
Wow.
So basically Mario Final Fantasy. Okay.
Yeah. Brock here. Super Mario RPG was made by Squaresoft. Yeah. So they had, I mean, I wonder how that worked out. I wonder how, because Nintendo was its own thing, and Squaresoft, they kind of had they created their own stuff, people and lore. Right. So interesting. Red 5, how you doing? Welcome.
Good to see you.
Yeah. So, I know we were talking about Twisted Metal. I didn't want to jump away from that because that was like you said, the commercial and Sweet Tooth, and it's just oh man,
was that the clown Sweet Tooth?
Yep.
Yeah, with the ice cream truck.
Yep.
Metal.
My favorite was Roadkill. I loved Roadkill and Spectre. Them were my 2 favorite to play as.
I'm looking up because I forget what they all are now. It's been so many years. Roadkill, Warthog, Spectre, Crimson Fury.
Sweet Tooth. Then what was the Axel? He was in Twisted Metal 2.
Okay, yeah, I used Axel a lot in Twisted Metal 2.
Yeah, man, that's them were like some of the staple games that first came out for PlayStation. You had just, a select, Crash Bandicoot was a big thing. What was that Wave Runner game, that Jet Wave, where you were on kind of like a wave runner? It was just a racing game. I can't
I don't
remember.
know. I played Gran Turismo though.
Gran Turismo,
Yeah, it was one of the originals for PlayStation. Twisted Metal, Gran Turismo,
Tomb
Crash
Raider.
Bandicoot, Tomb Raider. Yeah. Did you ever play any like wrestling games? I
Yeah.
used to play some, yeah.
Oh yeah, I was a big
Yeah.
late '90s. Well, I mean, I liked Bret Hart, Hogan, and Jake the Snake.
Yeah.
You knew of them, but like later on in the '90s, late '90s with The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. So I was really into playing them kind of wrestling games. The first one for PlayStation 1, I thought was it Raw? WWF Raw?
Yeah, I think so. There was one that came out for the N64. I remember, and I bought it and like played the heck out of it, but I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah. There was just so many good games. I'm trying to look. Resident Evil. I can't believe we didn't even mention that.
Oh yeah, here I have some Resident Evils here.
Mm.
2 and
Resident
3.
Evil 2 was my favorite.
Yeah, 2 and 3 right here. I had to buy them used, but
Huh?
yeah, I played them. I haven't really played any of the remasters so far, or the remakes. I've played I think just the first one.
Really?
Yeah, and I love Resident Evil games, but I'm not really like, those are like survival horror games, and I'm not really good at them, but I love them.
Yeah. Well, have you ever played Left 4 Dead? I know that's not on this. That's a PC game, but
yeah, I played Left 4 Dead, and there's a new type of, like, it's called Back 4 Blood, I believe, and it's basically like a spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead. It's new. I just played that a couple months ago with a buddy of mine, just co-op.
Really?
Yeah, but Left 4 Dead, I played a bunch of that, but I would say probably Resident Evil games always take the cake.
Yeah. Well, of course.
Yeah.
Twisted the hot rod with tornado powers.
That's
Yeah,
right.
absolutely. Vaughn Everlast PS1 loaded. Oh, 100%. There's so many games for that. Just even talking about this, having this conversation and seeing some of what you guys are mentioning in the chat too. It's like, it makes me want to go and play some of them or collect them again.
Well, let me ask you actually, best console of all time and favorite console of all time, if they're different. Like, what do you think is objectively the best, and what's your favorite?
I'm gonna have to say now. Okay, can I play my PS1 games on the PS2? Is that acceptable?
Yeah.
Okay. PS2, I think, is the best system that they ever made.
I think it's the highest selling console, like the most selling console of all time, or something like that. I think Switch might have eclipsed it.
Yeah, now I would agree, because it's amazing to play some of these games portable, and then, like I said, you could just hook it up and play it on your big screen, right? The Switch is brilliant. Nintendo, I think, killed it with that. PS2 has got to be the best system of all time, and would be my favorite to play. This is not including a PC. This is just console systems we're talking about.
It doesn't count.
What about you?
It's a toss-up between 3 of them.
Oh, okay.
Super NES, PS2, and PS4. I think I played just the most out of my PS4. Like, I really got my money's worth in that console. But I think I'm gonna go PS2, like you. That was kind of like the heyday of video gaming for me. Was my PS2. It's where I played, the Metal Gear games for the first time. It's where I played, most of the Final Fantasy games that I was playing at the time. And if you could play PS1 games on the PS2, which I did often, then, I think, it's no contest.
Yeah. Super Nintendo was fantastic too, man.
Yes, just so many good games.
It really does. A lot of franchise, like a lot of great, like Secret of Evermore. That's another. I mean, Link to the Past we talked about. It's just so many classics on that. Like you mentioned, it's hard, but I just so much of my time was spent on PS2.
Did you ever play Maximum Carnage? It was a Spider-Man game.
No, but I've seen it.
The console, the game cartridge is red, and so it sticks out. But what's cool about Maximum Carnage is you could play as Spider-Man some levels, and then some levels you play as Venom.
Oh,
And it was like a side scroller. Like you'd walk across the map and you just like beat up thugs, and then there would like eventually be like a boss like Carnage or one of his cronies that you'd have to fight. And I just love that game. But it was way too hard for me as a kid, but I loved it.
yeah. Some of the like action adventure style games like that. Like I never really got into any of the Batman franchises. None of that. I did play some Mortal Kombat, like Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance for PS2. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
ever played that. Like that was fun because you never had played it?
Only the first 3 Mortal Kombats, but I played the heck out of them when I was a kid.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So
yeah.
Favorite Mortal Kombat character? Like who's your go-to?
Johnny Cage.
Johnny Cage? Okay,
Yeah.
mine was Sub-Zero.
Really?
I know he's kind of cheap, but I love Sub-Zero. I loved him when I think in 3 when he had the mask off.
Yeah.
He was just like a guy.
It's cool. Did you see the trailer for the new Mortal Kombat?
No, but I will watch it because I want to get back into it. My sister still plays Mortal Kombat games.
Really?
Yeah.
There's big tournaments for that, like that Street Fighter. Like it's crazy. Like some of these games at the tournaments that they pay out money for.
Yeah. My sister used to work at a GameStop for a few years, and it was like the best thing ever because I'd be like, hey, put this game on hold for me when it was coming out.
That's cool. Yeah. Only good games. I got Resident Evil games and haven't played them yet, but I've heard they were really amazing. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I know Scott Johnson was talking about wrestling games that he played for the on the Sega, not the NES.
Yeah, he said the Sega or the Super NES, I think.
Yep.
I would, I used to play WrestleMania on the Super NES, and I always like pick the Undertaker every single time because I loved the Undertaker.
I know you were mentioning the Carnage game, but Red 5 says I remember Maximum Carnage was fun, hard to play. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really hard.
Yeah. There's, like I said, everyone, there's so many good games that it's just incredible. And I've tried to get my kids to kind of see some of the games I played, and it's just the graphics. But now I used to give them kind of a hard time for watching YouTubers and other, like streamers or Twitch, and now I'm doing that. I want to give a plug to a channel that's called 4-8 Productions. He just strictly plays Final Fantasy games, and he's been doing it for like 13 years. And I've basically been watching him. Like lately, I've been watching Final Fantasy 8 when I get a little bit of time. I'm watching him play Final Fantasy 8 because I just don't have the time, and I'd love to play that game again. So now I'm the guy watching other guys play games that I used to play. It's funny. It's just funny how that all works out.
Yeah. You've come full circle, man.
Yeah. Have you ever been a part of any like clan or like a group?
Like a guild or something?
Yeah.
No, not really. No. Like again, with MMOs, I have played MMOs, but I think Alex had said it in the comments earlier. He's more of like a single player game player. I am too. It's either like a single player, or if it's like a real-time strategy like StarCraft or like Street Fighter or something like that, I'll be playing with like buddies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
With like a big group of people, a clan or something. No, never.
No.
Like World of Warcraft or League of Legends. I think they have clans, stuff like that. No, I'm just never.
No.
How about you?
Yeah. And yes, Ultimate Alliance was a great game. It's very fun. And them co-op games, I love that style. Yes, I was a part of actually a couple when I got into NASCAR sim racing. And I actually had a really nice steering wheel and gas pedals, and it had a shifter. It was a Logitech Momo racing wheel. And I met these guys. We had a website. I actually used to do videos for highlight videos for them. And I would race, and we would talk online, and it was great. We used TeamSpeak. Ventrilo and TeamSpeak were some of the first communication ways to talk. We didn't have Discord, none of that. So we actually had a website that we paid for. We would race online, and some of us got invited to racing, like a racing championship where you would race for money. And it was all legitimate. Everybody was respectful. I mean, it was some of the most fun I've had. And then also for Call of Duty United Offensive, I was in a clan called the Red Dragon Disciples.
The Red Dragon Disciples.
Yeah. And and there was another clan out there that was big that was called DD, and they were deadly, or Death Before Dishonor was their. They had a website. We had a website, and let me tell you, man, we had some capture the flag competitions that
Yeah.
would blow your mind. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
And I love to call it like the World War II Call of Duties. That's what I enjoy. I don't play none of the new stuff. I'm not good at it, but I still play that game. I actually have it on Steam, and I played it a couple weeks ago. But yeah, man, them were some of the days back then.
Yeah. If I had more time, I might have been in a clan for like Counter-Strike.
Counter-Strike, yep.
That was a game that I played a lot of. I think I still have some of those maps just burned into my memory, Counter-Strike, because I played so much of it.
Yeah.
Did you ever win any money when you played?
No. Unfortunately, the competition was good. I mean, these races were like there was a file, so we would race Talladega or Daytona, and that's a super speedway, and you could bump draft. Well, in the game, it wouldn't let you do that, but if you went and changed a file, you could bump draft and it would work, just like they used to do racing, them tracks. So it was fun, man. It went on for a while. I tried to find some of them guys recently to see if they're still out there, because I used to have one of their emails. Like, we knew each other by name. They're like kind of like
For
how
sure.
you and I became friends now, and we talk outside of this, and with a lot of you guys in the chat as well. But I haven't found them to see if they're. I know NASCAR Sim Racing, that game from the early 2000s. I don't think they support servers for it anymore, as far as I know. It's unfortunate, because it was a great game. Only good games. I suck at fighting games. Only fighting games I'm decent is Tekken and Dragon Ball Z, Budokai and Tenkaichi.
Budokai Tenkaichi 3, I think I played a ton of.
Yeah.
I love those games because it was with the Wii too, so I'd just be like with the controllers, like back and forth.
Them Dragon Ball games were some of the most fun fighting games. Like, they were different, because you could fly and you could do all the stuff.
Exactly. I love them. As someone who's a big fan of Dragon Ball Z, I love those games. Felt like I was like actually, fighting as that character, so they were really cool.
Oh yeah, Who's your favorite Dragon Ball Z character?
Oh, man, Mr. Satan.
Really?
He's hilarious.
He's funny. Yeah. He's a comedic relief for sure.
Yeah, but like maybe like I don't know, it's kind of like the normie choice, but like maybe like someone like Vegeta.
Oh yeah,
Vegeta's always and like when he goes Super Saiyan, I think he always looks really cool.
Yeah.
But Mr. Satan is probably my favorite character. I have a Majin Buu statue in our bedroom. My wife's like, why would you put that? I was like, no, it's cool. Like the big Majin Buu when he's like big guy. I just love I love Mr. Satan and Majin Buu, my favorite duo.
Have you seen the new Hero movie?
Hero? No.
Just
I'm like a classic Dragon Ball guy. Like I have Z and I have Dragon Ball the original series on DVD. And
I have all of them too, and the movies as well. Yeah. Back to the wrestling, Undertaker was busted. Oh yeah.
Yes, he was. That's probably why I picked him, Scott. To be honest with you.
Was Yokozuna in that one too? And the clown. What was the clown? Remember the clown?
Doink the clown, man.
Doink. Yep, that's it, man. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Only Bardock.
Yeah, it's a good character as well.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say though, back to like playing video games for money. The only time I played video games for money is like, and this was actually more recently. It was like 6 or 7 years ago. We had this big Smash Brothers tournament. I think we played the N64 Smash Brothers version. Even though my favorite, I like the one on the Switch now. I think it's brilliant, but my favorite was always the Wii one. Not the Wii, the GameCube one. It was Smash Brothers, Super Smash Bros.
Ultimate? No,
it was maybe Brawl. Maybe
Brawl. Not. I think you're right. I think it was Brawl. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
But anyways, the N64 when we played for money, and I got like knocked out in the second round. But I always play as Mr. Game & Watch, but he's not in the original N64, so I play as Pikachu.
Really?
And the guy who won the tournament, my buddy Carl, he was playing as Donkey Kong.
Really?
And he like ripped off his shirt, and he had a DK tie underneath. He was like, awesome. I'm really glad that he won, because he ripped off and he had a DK tie underneath, and he was just like against like his like hairy chest, and he just grabbed all like the cash because it was like buy-in, right? And he just started like rubbing it on himself,
Oh my goodness. That's
mocking all of
insane.
us for losing. And it was just like the funniest thing I've ever seen. We were dying laughing. But DK is not really like my go-to, and he's
No.
really hard to win as him. But it's like good for him. Like he really took that character and made it his own.
Link, I'm really good. I've since 64, I've been playing as Link the whole
Link,
time.
yeah.
Yeah. I love Link. Let's check the chat here. Brock, my whole living room is decked out. DBZ Future Trunks is probably my favorite character. Or Piccolo.
Or Piccolo. Actually, you know what?
Piccolo's.
No, Piccolo's the best. I don't care. He's the best. I love him.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
good too. I liked Gohan too. Like
Gohan,
yeah. Brock does have a lot of DBZ stuff, that's for sure. He's a collector. Red 5 Review says, I love Super Smash Bros. On GameCube. Donkey Kong was always my go-to.
Oh man, Donkey Kong. He's hard, but you know what's funny about Donkey Kong is there was this thing I used to do on GameCube Super Smash Bros. Where Donkey Kong could grab people and he could hold them, and then I would run off the map with them.
That works.
We would both die, but it would be hilarious. Just like the stuff you get up to with your buddies and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, I know Brock here in chat. He like I know you mentioned Pikachu, but
yeah,
he plays. He used to do tournaments a lot for Pokemon. Like, did you ever play any of those games?
Oh yeah, I play a ton of the Pokemon games. The game that I'm currently playing is Pokemon Violet right now. I'm almost done like the main. I just collected all 8 gym badges, and now I have to go to the Elite Four. So I love those games. But the thing is, like with Pokemon, is like they're all very kind of repetitive. Like they variation on a theme. But more recently, I think they've been taking some chances. Like I played Pokemon Legends Arceus,
Okay.
and that was a really cool game. It kind of like you had to like research Pokemon. It wasn't all about like catching Pokemon and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed those games. How about you? Have you ever played Pokemon?
I have. And yes, Link is the best. Only good games. He's the best. I played a lot of Ultra Sun and Moon. Obviously, I played Red and Blue and stuff growing up, like the originals. You know, that was. But like Ultra Sun and Moon, I played a lot of, and they were fun. But like you said, they're just repetitive. It just kind of gets old. You know. So I love the aspect. I even played some of the card game for a while.
Like physically.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there was a Game Boy version of the card game, which I thought was really cool. My daughter is getting into Pokemon cards now. She wants me to go buy her some packs and stuff like that. And I remember I was into the card game as a kid.
Yeah, it's good. It's fun, and it's good fun, and it gets you out. And that's one thing about card games is that you make a lot of friends and you have a good time.
Yeah.
Right. But, I mean, they do have some pretty hardcore tournaments, but most of the time it's just fun.
Although I will tell you, something very traumatic happened to me as a 12-year-old. I participated in Pokemon card game tournaments, and I foolishly left my backpack upstairs, and someone robbed me blind of all my most valuable Pokemon cards. Like I had like a Charizard foil, Blastoise foil, like all the main 3, like Venusaur foil, and just robbed me blind completely. And I know, and I remember like knowing the kid that did it. Not like I didn't know him. Like, I had met him earlier that day, and I just remember being like, "Oh man, that was the guy that did it," and I just never saw him again. So I couldn't, do anything about it. But it was super traumatic, and the store felt kind of guilty about it because like it was at like one of those gaming shops, and they're like, "Hey, like here, have a booster box of Pokemon cards like on the house kind of thing," which was really cool of them to do that. But that's like cool. No way I ever got cards like that again. And so that was like the end of my Pokemon career.
That's one thing I'll say about TCG games like that is there's some terrible shady people out there.
Yeah.
That it's bullshit that happens. It's unfortunate. I remember this one time we had to travel to go to like tournaments. We didn't have nothing in our local town, so we had to go to it was Green Bay, so an hour away. And there was a shop there, and one of the kids wanted to sell his collection. Okay. And we were out in the parking lot, and my buddy was just getting into it. And he's like, "Here, I'll give you a great deal." The store owner of the shop walks outside and said he was going to call the cops because you're doing some illegal activities trying to sell and buy stuff out in my parking lot, because he wanted the money, or he wanted us to go spend money. So I mean, that I remember that. I didn't go there for a while after that. It's like, you're not getting my business anymore. That was unfortunate. It's trying to help somebody get in, you're going to come out and be rude when you're jacking up your prices. So that's another thing. It's just unfortunate.
That's too bad.
But having somebody steal your stuff, like, yeah, man, that goes on.
Yeah, I mean, it's happened a few times, but that was definitely like the biggest time in my life where someone's ever like stolen something from me.
Yeah.
First edition. I had one, man, and it was in pretty decent condition. As kids, like I was 12, so I was keeping good. I was keeping them in good condition, and they just got stolen.
Yeah. Only good. Yeah.
That sucks, man. Sorry that happened.
Yep. Scott Johnson, I played the card game up until about 6 minutes ago. I haven't bought any Scarlet or Violet expansions yet.
Yeah. Oh, this? Yeah, and I think we got it as like a wedding gift or something, like a set of them.
Mr. Everlast says, no Pokemon here, but MT. Yep, I used to play that. A lot of my friends.
I always have one close by.
Yeah, very nice. Two of my friends started a store here in our local town. It's a tabletop. They do board games, the whole 9 yards. And I used to play a lot with them, and they're doing really well. And unfortunately I got out of it. It's time, money, plus I can't sit much anymore. But loved MTG. Some of the most fun just sitting around. We used to have big potlucks where everyone, as we got older, we'd have sloppy joes and chips, and we'd all sit around all night and play a big all-out brawl of Magic the Gathering. 6 months ago, Scott, I see that. Yeah, 6 months ago you haven't played it. Haven't played any Pokemon since Gold or Silver. Yeah, there's just so many. So Violet, then they made Sun and Moon, and then they made Ultra Sun and Moon.
Yeah, Black 1, Black 2. There's so many.
Yeah. But what about PC games? What about some of the PC games that are you playing any right now?
PC, no. I was toying with the idea of getting Diablo 4 on PC, but I think I'm going to get it on PlayStation 5 just because like the PC is here in the basement, and my PlayStation 5 is upstairs, and it's just sometimes it's easier to just be upstairs and play upstairs than it is in the basement because my daughter likes to watch TV and stuff like that, and I want to take that away from her.
Yeah.
But let me see, computer game wise.
What about
Baldur's Gate games were a big one for me.
Warcraft, the original Warcraft, the battle chest.
Yeah, definitely. I played Warcraft 3 was the one that I played.
And I still have them.
Frozen Throne expansion. I love that game.
Yes.
Yeah, for me, like computer game, like Blizzard is a big one. Like we talked about Diablo, we talked about StarCraft. And we could talk about like Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim. I played a ton of those games, the Elder Scrolls games.
Yeah. Like we mentioned that. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, we mentioned them earlier.
To me, those are like first and foremost. I love playing those on the computer. I wouldn't I know Skyrim has come out for like every system under the sun, but like I would only ever play Skyrim on the computer.
Yeah. Now that I have it, same here. I have it on the Switch as well.
Yeah. I recently played. They've since ported it to console, but this game, it's one of the best games I've ever played. Frankly, it's called Disco Elysium. I'm gonna plug it real quickly.
Yeah.
It's there's no real combat in it. It's more of like it's like a visual novel. You're a police officer, and you wake up in this sort of like this fake, not real world, but it's like a fake, almost like it had like its own French Revolution type of city. It's called Revanchist, and you're there to solve a murder, and you wake up from like this massive bender, and you don't remember your name, you've lost your gun, you've lost your badge, and you just basically have to like recreate what's happened over the past week while trying to also solve this murder. And it deals with like a lot of heavy political themes. Like you can be like points for being more of like a fascist type cop or a communist type cop or something,
Really?
or a capitalist type cop. And it's just such a really great game. And it's just like it's an entire mood, and you really get into the story, and you really get into the characters. I thought it was just really, really well done. If you want kind of like almost like a visual RPG experience, and you can upgrade certain aspects of your character, like his knowledge of art, his knowledge of like just the world around you, his knowledge of, you know, or like his physical prowess, because there's some like skill checks that you have to pass. But the interesting thing about Disco Elysium is that you could play it like, it's only maybe like 30 hours long, but you could play it like 100 times and have
Different
like
outcomes.
50 different experiences and
Yeah.
outcomes. Like it's just so like so many different paths that you could play. And the music is incredible. They're the band that did the album for Disco Elysium. They're called British Sea Power. I don't really know like a ton of their work, but like they did a really great job with that game. They're like an indie band, I think. And the other thing I really like about Disco Elysium is that it's like fully voice acted as well, which is really great. The art style is really cool as well. I just like one of the most incredible gaming experiences that I've ever had.
Really?
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it so much.
Wow.
It's
That's
just
interesting.
an entire mood, this game. You know, like a game that you play, it's like an entire mood. This game is an entire mood.
You know, when you were saying the soundtracks and the sound like that plays a big part too. Like to the
Yeah.
like I mean that classic Final Fantasy, all that the noises and the battle sound, the intro, just
the Zelda games.
Zelda.
Sure. Yeah.
So Disco Elysium, and that's only on PC.
Well, they've since ported it, I think, to it might even be on Switch now, but it's on PlayStation for sure.
Okay, I'll have to check.
And you can really play it wherever, because it's like a kind of like a point and click. It's like a visual novel. Like I said, it really it's almost like reading a story, but you're playing a game.
Yeah.
Fallout
series, Alex. Yeah.
I've never played Fallout 3 and 4, but I've played Fallouts 1, 2, and Fallout Tactics, I believe. That's one tactics game that I played, and I like those games. Have you ever played the Fallout games before?
No, I watched my buddy Brian. He was playing that quite a bit.
Yeah.
I just didn't have the time and patience for like some of the games that are, you know, like Skyrim. Like I love the game and I played it and I put hours into it, but like so you could play that game for 3 hours and not do a thing, because there's just so many little things that you want. Like me, I want the whole experience. I want to talk to everyone. I want to fill it, you know, just shortly do all the little side quests.
Yeah.
So
yes,
Alex wants to play it. Yeah, I want to check it out too. It sounds interesting.
Yeah, especially Alex, because you like Planescape Torment. Disco Elysium is along the same lines. Like you can play that game without ever getting into a battle with anyone. It doesn't even really have like a fighting combat system to it, but it's really great. Oh yeah, classic game.
Yes, best sound. You know, have you ever played Octopath Traveler?
Yeah, well, actually, I just finished it, like back in February.
The first one.
The first one, because I know like the second one came out in February. I haven't touched the second one yet. I just finished it back in February. Great game.
Oh, I have not beat the first one. Okay.
Yeah.
I have it. I pre-ordered it. As soon as I saw images of it and the talk about it, I immediately fell in love with it because it reminded me of that old classic Final Fantasy little character, the Pix. Immediately. So I went and I saw that they had a deluxe edition.
Wow.
So I have a deluxe edition
of Octopath.
It's got trading cards in there. Wow. A stat card for each of the characters.
Yeah.
It came with the soundtrack. So I have a CD in there.
Great soundtrack too.
A pop-out book of like the old school pop-out where the pictures would come alive, jump out at you. It came with that and a coin and a map, like a cloth map. Amazing.
Yeah, amazing.
I didn't open all of like the soundtrack's still sealed. The cards are still sealed. There's things that are still sealed, obviously, because I wanted to play the game, so I had to open the thing. But I checked. I think it was like $300 and some now.
Yeah, the collector's editions go up for a lot of money. My only complaint about Octopath is that if you play it like slowly, it's really great. But if you play it kind of all at once, it gets a little repetitive.
Yeah,
very formulaic, that game.
It's hard. It is hard. It's a hard game.
one of the harder RPGs that I've played. Yeah.
You have to grind.
You do have to grind, and also the combat system is very it's not like too complex, but it's complex.
Well, yeah.
You really have to plan ahead and plan your strategy.
Yeah.
And I like games that force you to do that. Like
Yes.
Octopath doesn't have you can't lower the difficulty setting. There's just one difficulty.
Yeah. And you, like, if you get beat, you gotta grind, and that takes time in that game to grind.
Yeah.
Scott Johnson, either of you played Red Dead Redemption 2? That was the last non-sports game I played. Phenomenal game. I have heard it. A guy I work with is actually playing it, and he loves it.
Yeah, Scott, unfortunately, no. But I would consider it. Like it's one of those games where I definitely have to play it because I know it's considered like one of the greatest games of all time. Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah, I heard he's having a blast with it, and he tells me about it, and I'm like, really? You can do that? He accidentally just killed somebody. He said, and he's mad because he didn't mean to. He just hit the wrong button, and there's like no going back, unless he goes back to his last save point. So that's one thing I will say. Let's talk about that real quick, like making sure you save. Yeah, man, I can tell you how many times where I was at a boss, and especially
still happens to me.
Yeah.
I was playing Pokemon Violet the other day. It crashed on me, and I was like, "When's the last time I saved?" I lost an hour of progress. But imagine as a kid, like you lose like hours or days of progress or something like that. And it just drains all the desire to play the game out.
I've walked away from games because of that. At Final Fantasy IX, that happened to me, and I didn't. I put that game down for a long time. Let's just say that.
Yeah, it's deflating. It's completely deflating when that happens. And when you're an adult, it's even worse because you feel like, oh man, I wasted so much of my time. When you're a kid, you have a ton of time, but as an adult, you can't just sit around and play games forever. So
no. And that's one of the reasons why, like, I deter away from Skyrim, because I'll try to give myself, okay, I'm going to go down and play for an hour. That's it. Giving myself an hour tonight to play. And then I go and play, and an hour goes by before you know it, and I didn't even leave the village yet.
Yeah, of course.
So it's like, what do you do? It's like, man, that's.
I was going to say, we were talking about Red Dead before. Is there a series of video games you haven't played, or a video game in particular you haven't played, that you're like, oh man, this is like top of my bucket list. Like I got to play these games or this game.
Oh man, there's a bunch, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Like some of the earlier Final Fantasies that I haven't beat. Final Fantasy 3. I'd love to, like, I just want to go back and replay, like, Link to the Past. I want to play that again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. To beat Final Fantasy 10. I want to beat 10. I want to do that because I beat 7 Tactics, 8, 9.
Yeah.
10 is kind of when I fell off from the Final Fantasy series.
Right.
Then it started getting into the MMO and then the higher consoles that I don't have. So 10, I'd like to beat 10 just because them are kind of like the staple games in that era of the Final Fantasy series.
Yeah. For me, I know Alex is going to be excited about this. It was I'm currently playing through it for the first time, but Halo was a series that I just completely missed because I never owned an Xbox. But I bought the Master Chief Collection on Steam, and it's a little buggy sometimes, but I've been playing through the games. I'm on Halo 3 right now, and I play them with a friend, so we're doing them like very slowly. We only play like a couple hours a week. Yeah, but I'm really enjoying them. I've even started reading some of the books because it's like Star Wars: The Expanded Universe, all like within one continuity. Like the books tie into the games.
And some of the authors have wrote for both series, I believe, right?
That's right. I think you have like Denning and
Alston? No,
not Alston. There's maybe Karen Travis has written some Halo books.
Yeah, I heard the series is good. StarCraft has lore too. That actually has books as well.
Yeah.
I'm kind of kicking myself because there was a hardcover StarCraft 2 novelization with something that Goodwill, and I just totally, like, I had it and then I set it down and then I trailed off and it's gone. It's like, man, I should have just held on to it. Because it's always good. Like, some of the lore is good, even Diablo.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's why I'm interested to try out 4. I'm like, where could they possibly have gone from 3? I want to see how the storyline develops.
Let me ask you this: how did you like 3 compared to 2? Like, if you were to pick one out of the 2, which would?
It would always be 2.
Okay, good call.
3, they made it good over time. I think when it first came out, it was a bit rough, and they had that auction house,
Yeah.
which was a terrible idea.
Yes.
But 3 is at a place, I replayed it, I think, last year, and it's at a place now where it's a respectable game. But 2 is just always, it's the GOAT.
Yeah, it's the best. They nailed it with that 100%. Agree with you. Yeah, I played it on the Switch. I have it on the Switch, and we were playing it. I mean, it's good. It's in its ways, but just 2 is the ultimate. Like, nothing compares it to.
So let me ask you, what's your, this might be a loaded question because I'm sure it probably even changes over time, but what's your favorite game of all time?
That's like, how do you answer that, Marcel?
Yeah, it's like asking you to choose your favorite kid.
It's okay. I'll give you 3 because this is immediately to the top of my head. If somebody were to ask me this, it's going to be 7, Final Fantasy 7.
Yeah, classic game.
Final Fantasy Tactics.
Yeah.
And Diablo 2.
Yeah, those are good choices, man.
I mean, I would also throw StarCraft in the mix.
Yeah, StarCraft is an incredible choice as well. I don't even know that I can't even answer the question, but I know for years and years, I really liked BioShock 1, and for years and years I really liked Ocarina of Time. Like, love that game, and I think that's the game that I've probably replayed the most is Zelda Ocarina of Time.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a good one.
I just think it's like for me it's like the perfect game.
Was that was on 64 or the Game Boy?
That was 64.
Okay, what was the ones that Seasons? Wasn't it Seasons 1 and 2?
Oracle of Seasons and maybe Oracle of Ages or something like that.
Yeah, there was like a dual.
Yeah, and Link's Awakening was also on the Game Boy.
Okay.
Yeah, the Game Boy Color, Link's Awakening DX. It was one of the first Game Boy Color games that I played.
Man, there's so like a Link to the Past could be thrown in that mix of ultimate games of all time.
Yeah, I know. And these days I think I like Link to the Past better. But Ocarina of Time, God, that game is just, I think it's incredible from start to finish.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm curious to know if what some of you in the chat, what your favorite game is of all time. I'd be curious to see. Scott Johnson actually just threw it up here.
Tecmo Bowl.
Oh my goodness.
Classic,
man. Don Makowski all the way to the back for a touchdown. Oh man, did you play any, like, you remember for Sega the Mutant League football and Mutant League hockey?
No. I used to play NBA Jam on Sega.
Yeah, that's on my list.
Downtown.
Yep. Boom shakalaka.
Boom shakalaka. Yeah, that's the one.
Man.
Yeah.
Them were great games. Even I miss arcades, like classic arcades. You know, I know they do have some around in bigger cities and such. They do their thing, but just some of them games going to the arcade, the X-Men game, where it was like the biggest. I mean, the thing was like just massive. And you could have like 8 people playing.
For sure. Yeah, it was that was an event. I remember that X-Men arcade. There was a place that we went to. This was back, I want to say, in 2016. Buddies of mine. It was just like this. It was an video game arcade museum outside of Pittsburgh. It's close to Pittsburgh. And they had like everything there. They had the X-Men one. They had, do you remember the Simpsons arcade game?
Yes.
Yeah, the Simpsons. They had the Star Wars one with like the joystick and stuff, where you'd play through the original trilogy. Then they had like classic arcade games like Joust and those Ice Climbers and stuff like that. Donkey Kong, the original, all those vintage games, and we just spent like 3 or 4 hours there. We had the entire place to ourselves. We rented it out.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was for a bachelor party.
That's cool. Red 5. Yeah. I played for my friend's wedding, and for the groomsmen march, I played Song of Storms from Zelda. That's awesome. It's funny how you just mentioned you did it for a bachelor party. Red 5's doing it at another wedding. How we incorporate some of the things that we grew up with in the games. It's just, they made an impact, man. They were fun. So many good memories. it's just maybe we're just getting older and reminiscent, but like my kids won't experience going to the video store to rent a video game to try it, right? And going with you, hanging out with your buddies at their house on their floor, bags of chips and soda cans all over, playing GoldenEye or NBA Jam.
I know.
It's
too bad. It's just too bad.
It
was a magical time.
Yeah. It's like put that in a bottle and encapsulate that thing.
I know. I feel like all my video gaming in my adult life is just trying to recapture that feeling and that memory.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I think about it sometimes before even doing the stream with you. I was like the racing, just being online racing and how fun that was, and how I remember my first win, and I actually bumped the guy in the corner out of the way a little bit. He was so pissed at me, but I didn't wreck him. It was like a photo finish. It was so cool.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I'll always remember that moment.
Those moments live on forever, man.
Yeah. This is something I'd like to do this again with you sometime, talking, because we could go on and on about games.
Sure. Yeah, I know we're coming up on the 2-hour mark. We should probably wrap up. Final thought. Yeah.
So what? I hope you all enjoy this. I want to say that I know in my channel update I said I'd like to talk about Star Wars is a big part of my life. It's a big part of Marcel's life, but I wanted to talk about other things, video games, music. Let me know what you guys think of this idea. Let me know. I'd appreciate it. I always appreciate everyone's input, and I'm very thankful for everyone watching and subscribing and tuning in. It means a lot to me. It truly does. I meet great people like I met Marcel here. Fantastic gentleman. I consider you a good friend.
Likewise.
But enough about me. What do you got coming down the pipe, or any plugs that you want to give for yourself? I know you mentioned earlier you got a short story coming out here.
Yeah, short story, probably later today. I'm just editing it right now. I've already recorded a couple others. I'm almost done with the KOTOR short stories, and then I'm moving on to the SWOTOR era, the Old Republic short stories, probably in the middle of the summer. And then just working on the podcast, and I'm trying to maybe come up with a couple other ideas for maybe non-Star Wars related content, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, it's great. And you guys got to check Marcel out. He does a fantastic job. You got a voice, my friend. You're very good at this narration. You're the best. Honestly.
Yeah, I'm a little under the weather the last week, so I haven't been able to really work as much as I wanted to on my channel, but I'm getting better now. Yeah.
It's always a pleasure to hear these stories, especially for someone that doesn't know about them or doesn't have a lot of that kind of material. So I appreciate the work and effort you put in for us.
Thanks, man.
Well, there you have it, folks. Some video game talk. We're probably going to do a part 2 of this because there's so many games we could talk a little more in depth about. Maybe we'll come up with a list of a few, and just Final Fantasy VII we sure can talk about for a while. I know I can. And then hopefully you can play Tactics, and that's another one.
Oh, wait, before we go, favorite Final Fantasy VII character?
Oh, man. It's either Cloud or Sid.
Sid, okay, yeah.
What about for you?
And Aerith.
Yeah?
Oh, when she died, it was like, I was devastated. I still am. I haven't gotten over it.
Yeah, I remember there was talks on the internet. You can bring her back. She can come back at one point if you do this or do that. I remember that specifically. Yeah. And no, you couldn't bring her back. No, unfortunately. I love their relationship, though.
Yeah,
Cloud and hers.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
I love how they incorporate like the love story into it in an aspect, because there was also Tifa with Cloud too. There was like, it was,
There's a love triangle going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Final Fantasy VII, greatest of all time. I'm just saying that right now. Best game ever. There you have it, folks. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Hope you had fun. Marcel, it's a pleasure. Thanks for coming on, my friend. And until next time, we'll see you guys soon.
Cheers.